I'm Callie and welcome to Kapowski Reads. This weekend is a bank holiday weekend and I thought that I would try to read as much as I could during my 4 days off because it is the 7th of April right now and I have finished 0 books. 0. Me! It's been a month and I haven't been able to finish anything yet. So I am hoping to finish a few books this long weekend and vlog about them. That's the great plan. The first book that I'm going to be focusing on is a book that I've already started. So it's a bit of a cheat, but oh well, there's no stakes, it's fine. I am already a decent part of the way through The Last Final Girl by Stephen Graham Jones. This is a teeny tiny book and I've only got maybe 60 pages left. Yeah, I've only got about 60 pages left of the book and so far I'm absolutely loving it. It is an homage to the slasher film genre, which is one of my favourite film genres, which I think comes as a bit of a surprise to people who know me because I am scared of everything and I hate blood. But with a slasher film, I think what I love is the fact that the films are all formulaic. They all follow the same rules and you know where you stand with a slasher film. There's going to be slashies and gore and you know what's going to happen. And I think that that's almost reassuring in a really weird way. So I am off to town in a wee bit to sit in a coffee shop while my partner goes and gets his hair cut, and yeah, my plan is to drink a decent amount of coffee and finish my book, and if there's time I will start another book, but I don't know if there will be. It's not been a good month for reading, so let's just aim to get one read and to get, oh I don't know, 4 shots of coffee consumed. Let's have goals. I am back from town and I am delighted to say that I have now finished reading 1 whole book this month. I loved this book, but I would find it very difficult to try and break down my rating of this. I just have to sort of go on what my heart says. My heart says give it a 4-star because normally I do a sort of consideration of various factors. I like to do co-pile. I think it's fantastic and it really helps me work out my ratings. But this book was not like other books. There was no character development. The writing was very much in the vein of a slasher film. The book sort of was very jumpy because it moved from scene to scene, from point of view to other point of view, and it was easy to get disoriented. But I loved it because it followed the formula of a slasher film. It was almost like reading a script, and that's actually how the book was described to me by somebody I know who had read it, and I've instantly blanked on who it was. But I was sort of sold this on the premise of it is a script of a final girl slasher film, and it kind of was, but wasn't as well. It was more like somebody had watched a film and then written everything that happened in the film, but not added anything extra to sort of novelize it, if that makes sense. I loved the fact that there were multiple final girls in it. And I love the classic tropes of do not trust that new stranger. Do not think that when you have caught the guy, the slasher, sometimes there's not just one. Have we not seen Scream? If you've not seen Scream, I highly recommend all of them. Good times to be had. I loved the way that even though there's always a system, there's always a formula, it wasn't obvious who the baddie was, because this book had the slasher was called Billie Jean and they were dressed like Michael Jackson in the, oh, is it Beat It? The Michael Jackson in the zombie the zombie music video. I'm not a Michael Jackson fan. My sister was. I was not. So I'm not super familiar with which song the outfit matched the video to. But there was an ensemble and I really liked that. I really liked the number of different characters that we had, and I just felt like I was kept on my toes, and I liked that it kind of gave a little bit of a twist from what I was expecting. I was expecting the grand event to happen at the social engagement that you would expect, but it didn't. And I felt like this book could so easily have multiple sequels and I would just read them all because I liked it. I found this to be oddly comforting because you know what's going to happen and you know you can't get attached to the characters, and because there's no character development, you don't, so you're quite happy, you know, not happy. You're not happy for bad things to happen to people, but they're not real, so it's okay to think that way. But you're sort of expecting multiple people to get picked off. Do not grow attached to anybody. And this was my first book by this author, and I am happy to say I will definitely give them another go because I liked this. It wasn't too scary and it wasn't too gratuitous with its gore, and I think that's why I liked it. And there were a lot of nods to horror films that I enjoy. So I really like this. And I think that this book, if you like those kind of films, I think that you will like this book. I think that enjoyment of this book is very much dependent on how much you feel towards the films it's an homage to. If you're not overly into those kind of films, then you might not like this so much. I feel like this is almost like a fan service and I loved it. So yay! Book one of the month. I thought I would never get there. And book one of my bank holiday. While I was sitting with my coffee, I actually finished this before I finished my coffee, my wait. So I had time to read a little bit of another book. I started Love on the Menu by Mimi Deb. And this is a romance, and it is between a woman who embarrasses herself at work and is just feeling a little bit lost, and she writes a list of goals that she wants to achieve and orders takeaway food, and accidentally somehow that list finds itself in the delivery bag and ends up going back to the chef who had made the food, and they start this sort of little correspondence, and it's quite sweet. And we're following both of the characters, Gia and Ben. And at first I found it a little bit hard to get into because the event where Gia kind of embarrasses herself at work was just so, you could see, even though you knew something bad was going to happen, you knew something bad was going to happen because you could really see it coming. And I feel like she was too trusting, and I feel like there were a lot of bad decisions that were made that led to that event. And the place where she works, I hate it. I hate the place she works. It's so toxic, and I just don't really like reading a toxic work environment because who among us has not been in a toxic work environment? It's not fun to be in, and it's not fun to read about. So I was a little bit like, oh, if we get too much of this office, I can't. But so far, there's not been a great deal of the office environment. And I'm liking Ben. I feel like there's going to be a little bit more revealed about him. He seems like a sweet guy, but he kind of feels like he's hiding something. So I'm wondering what that is. I do like their little relationship forming through their little letters. Both Gia and Ben seem quite likable characters, so I am excited to see how things progress for them. And they both seem nice. Kind of hoping Gia finds a better job somewhere else with a less toxic environment and less mean people who make fun of her fashion choices when she sounds like she is stylish. And I really want to know more about the Frida Kahlo trousers that she was wearing. I will report back when I've read more of the book. I did not film an update yesterday because I was busy. We were busy. We had family round for a sort of early Easter unplanned event, which very much ate up into our original plans, which involved a lot of building Lego with the children. So that was exhausting, but also lovely and fun to see people. But oh, unexpected socializing just takes it out of me. I had a slight change of plan when it came to my reading, because I continued reading Love on the Menu as planned. I made it to 30% of the way through the book, and I realised I had just under 3 hours left of reading time, and I didn't want to spend another 3 hours reading that book. It just wasn't working for me. I don't know if it's a DNF or if it's just a not for now book. There's also a lot of office drama, which I am not here for. I work in an office. I can get drama myself. I don't need it. But it just felt like this book is not what I want. So putting that down, I was a little bit worried because I had only finished one book this month. So I sort of thought, well, I need to just think of what I'm really excited to read and read that as a treat, as a reward, because clearly whatever I've been doing this month has not been working for the way I've been feeling. So I decided to pick up The Writing Retreat by Julia Bartz, which is one of my most recent books. I only bought it last week. I featured it in my little book haul video, which I posted last week, and it is one of the books that I have been the most excited to read since I saw it, like a week ago. I haven't known about this book for a long time, but I have been excited about it. So it is a thriller, horror. I'm never quite sure about genres. It takes place in a writing retreat in a secluded location. There are 5 female authors who are brought together by this famous, elusive, somewhat solitary horror author who is running this retreat. And in the blurb, it does say the bodies start to pile up. So that, I was hooked. I really love an isolated setting, and I love a sort of picking off of people in an isolated setting. It is just something that I enjoy in a book. I have so far read half of this book. I'm not sure how many parts there are of the book. I have read parts 1 and 2, which has got me to halfway, a little bit over halfway. And so far, part 1 was introducing me to the main character, Alex. She's 30 or in her 30s. This is important, kind of. She is just feeling a little bit sort of lost, and she's feeling quite isolated. She had had a falling out with her best friend. They had been in a somewhat codependent, very toxic friendship. And when that ended very abruptly, Alex was left kind of feeling lost and shut out of her other relationships because their sort of joint friends, it felt, had all gone off with Ren, her ex-bestie, and she was just feeling a little bit lost and not quite sure what she wanted to do with her life. She finds herself going to a book launch of her friend Ursula, who was also friends with Ren. They had previously, the 3 of them, been in a writing group together, and one of them had gained great success. And at this book launch, we get to see a little bit of an interaction between Alex and Ren, and it just made me sort of wonder, what happened? What happened here? What is the gossip? Because something happened, and it feels like it's something quite big, and I'm nosy. I want to know. After the event, Ursula contacts Alex to say, look, there is a writing retreat with your favourite author, and I know that you are older than the age threshold because it's for women under 30, but somebody dropped out. She needed a replacement applicant, so Ursula had submitted some of her friends' work and was like, I thought you would be perfect for this retreat. And of course she was perfect for it because she got in. But not only did Alex get in, but Ren, ex-bestie, also got in because Ursula submitted both of their works because she knew them both from a writing group. So part one very much made me so intrigued. I was really excited about this writing retreat, and I was really excited to find out what was going to happen with having these two ex-best friends who cannot even be in the same room as each other being together at a writing retreat in an isolated location for a month. What's going to happen? And I was in. We then get to meet all of the other characters who are in the house. So there is Rosa, the author. She is odd. She's bizarre. But is she just quirky because she is a celebrated author? Or is she hiding something? There's Yana, who is her assistant, and she's a very abrupt and just takes no nonsense, and I think I love her. And then we get to meet the 5 contestants, the 5 authors, and they're all quite different. But the thing with the contestants is that it's very clear that 2 of them are hiding something. At least 2 of them. Possibly all of them are hiding things, but there's 2 that definitely have had a few moments where they have slipped up with their backstories, and I'm very, very excited to find out what's going on. What's going on? It's really exciting because the house is kind of shrouded in some mystery because an previous occupant had been really into seances, and she had been sort of possessed and did these pieces of art that her husband was not very fond of, and then both of them wound up dead. And it was all very mysterious. Nobody really knew what happened, and I really like the fact that the house feels... Does the house feel haunted, or is it that everybody seems creepy? I don't know. The book is making me really doubt reality, which is sort of amped up by the isolated setting because of course there's snow, so they're snowed in, and there's no phone reception because it's an isolated house. And part 2 ends with somebody going missing. I'm in. I'm so in. I don't have a lot of plans for today, so I'm possibly just gonna finish this book and then reward myself with multiple hours of playing Stardew Valley. So, and eating Easter eggs. So let's see if that happens. I had actually planned to finish this book over today and tomorrow, but I don't know. I don't think I want to ration this. I think I want to just go and devour it. So I'll let you know when I come back. I will have finished this book and we will know whether it was finished today or tomorrow. Place your bets now. I finished it. It is Sunday night and I finished this book because I was not finishing this book. It had to be done. There were actually 4 parts in this book. I wasn't too sure, and I did not want to sort of flip ahead to see, just in case I saw anything that spoiled things for me. I absolutely loved this book. I loved it. So let's chat about what happened since last we spoke. In part 3, it all kicks off. All of it starts going on and things go wild. A lot of unexpected things happened. A lot of reveals came that I was not expecting. And the book just took a turn. And I didn't see it coming. I think partly because the book is very short. So it's 305-ish pages, really short, and it just packed so much in that I did not expect it to be able to include in such a short number of pages. And then part 4 is the sort of grand finale. I did just assume that this book was going to be 3 parts, so I really loved having that 4th part to sort of tie everything up. I didn't know until the end of reading this book that the author is actually a practicing therapist, because this book, you can tell that this was written by somebody who knew how to sort of, I'm not saying she knows how to trick the brain, because that, I mean, is that what therapy is if you really think about it? Maybe. That's something interesting to think about. But this was very much written by somebody who was extremely skilled in making you think other things were going on. And it was very psychological. I felt like I didn't know who to trust, and I didn't know if it was an unreliable narrator. There were moments where drugs were introduced and I was like, well, I don't, is this real? Is this just the trip? I didn't know. And I felt like that was really integral to my enjoyment of the story, was having those doubts in my own perceptions. And I feel like I just didn't know where this book was going to go, who was going to be the baddies, but more importantly, why they were going to be the baddies. I did call the reason approximately 2 pages before the reveal, but I can take no credit for that because it was clearly building. But everything else I did not see coming, and I found this to just be such an exciting book where I was just hooked and I didn't want to put it down. And I feel like it's been a really long time for me since I have last had a book that I have been so invested in. I don't think I liked many of the characters in this book. Of the main characters, I did really like Yana, because I feel like as the long-suffering assistant, I felt like she was definitely hiding something, but I also really just respected her boundary setting. I liked that. I really liked Kira, who was one of the writers. She was very honest, very straightforward, and I feel like you knew where you stood with Kira. She was kind of the only one out of the writers that I felt I could kind of trust. The others just, I felt they were hiding things. I just felt like there were so many moments where I felt like I couldn't trust anybody in this book, and I think that really just made the book so exciting. Is it too early to say that it might be on my favourites of 2023? Maybe, possibly, but I can definitely say that at this moment in time I have finished 45 books so far this year, and the writing retreat is definitely one of my favourites so far. It's gonna be in my top 10 at the end of the year, I'm pretty certain, unless I'm gonna have the most amazing rest of the year ever. That would be great, actually. I would really like that. But this book definitely, it did it for me. This book also reminded me a little bit of some other books that I've loved. So it kind of had the isolated setting that may or may not be haunted, but at least has a tragic past. It had that element that I had previously loved from Plain Bad Heroines by Emily M. Danforth. It also had the toxic female friendship, codependent relationship aspect that I had loved from Bunny by Mona Awad, but it also had that moment of doubting reality and sort of toxic friendship elements that I had previously loved from Other People's Clothes by Kala Henkel. So I think for me, this book just took parts from 3 different books that I have previously loved, previous favourites of the month, of the year. Bunny's from this year. I mean, not to call spoilers, but again, unless I'm having the best reading year of the entire world, Bunny's probably going to make it to my favourites of 2023. So this book just took together parts of other books I'd loved and just made this creepy psychological book with the unreliable narrator and just all of these twists and turns, and I just ate it up. Absolutely loved it. Highly Highly recommend. Super short. Get it done. I read it in less than 24 hours. I achieved very little else during that time, but I read it. I loved it. I'm happy. Now, I don't know what to do because I kind of had assumed that based on how my reading's been going so far this month, that I would read this book up until the end of Monday. And it's Sunday. And I've still got time to read one more book. And what do you read after reading an amazing book? Because that feels really unfair to whatever I read next. It's always going to end up being somewhat compared to the last book I read. You know, did I like it more? Did I like it less? I'm still not feeling like going back to Love on the Menu right now. So I think that what I'm going to read next is Sparkling Cyanide by Agatha Christie. It's a reread and I know I really enjoy it. So that's my plan. I'm going to read a little bit of that tonight and finish it off tomorrow probably. I'll report back with updates. Happy Monday! I have made some progress in my final book of this long weekend, this bank holiday weekend. I have made some decent progress in Sparkling Cyanide by Agatha Christie. I am a little bit over halfway through it and I couldn't find a bookmark. So I'm using a stitch marker for knitting, which a little unicorn, and I feel like that is just joyful and I'm very happy about this. I have read this book before, so that is why I sort of thought this would be a really nice book to read between a very, very strong 5-star read and whatever I read next. This is my Read Christie pick for April, where the theme is poison, because the murder in this book involved poison. It involved cyanide. This book surrounds a death at a dinner party where a very beautiful young woman died after consuming cyanide. The death was determined to be death by suicide, and everybody sort of accepted that at the time, but a year later things may have changed a little bit. And this book has got 3 parts in it, and I have read currently parts 1 and 2. So part 1 just introduced all of the characters in this book. There are 6 main characters in this book, plus Colonel Race, who is the sort of detective that is featured in this book. The victim, Rosemary, we don't really learn that much about her other than that she is extremely wealthy, she's inherited some money, and she's absolutely just a babe. She's gorgeous. She's not described as being overly intelligent, and is sort of, everybody kind of implies that she's quite vacuous, which is such a shame. We then get to meet all of the other characters, her husband, her sister, her husband's assistant, and some of her friends. And each person kind of is revealed to have had some sort of motive. And that is what I love in an Agatha Christie book, where it could very much be anyone. All of these people have reasons that you could be like, yeah, that's why they did it. Part 2 of this book is where the story really begins. So it surrounds mainly the husband, and he has taken in his sister-in-law because she was quite young at the time and she'd been staying with her older sister prior to her death. So she's still there, and they've got this quite nice, almost sibling-like relationship going on, and he wants to sort of give her a birthday party. And that birthday party just happens to be taking place in the restaurant where her sister died just a year earlier. And it involves the same cast. None of these people want to go, but they all kind of feel guilted into going because the event is kind of being described as almost therapeutic for Rosemary's sister Iris. And we haven't seen anything to tell us that that's the reason for it, because her husband, George, he's got his own theories. He believes that she was murdered because he's received a couple of letters that came after her death telling him that. So he has been putting on his detective hat, trying to find out what happened, and he's feeling pretty confident, and I think it's building to him having a sort of Poirot-esque grand reveal at this dinner party. Colonel Race has warned him, you know, don't do this. This is not how you deal with things. Get professionals in. But he is determined to have his sort of grand reveal moment. And part 2 ends with a death at the dinner party, mirroring the death of Rosemary just 1 year earlier. I really like this book because I love a little dinner party murder. I really like that this book is kind of casting doubt on everybody. And the victim, I wasn't expecting them to be the victim. So I was quite taken aback because I just thought the victim was going to be somebody else. So that's exciting, and I'm really looking forward to finding out what happens next, how it's revealed, who saves the day. I am halfway through this book and I see no reason why I won't have it finished tonight. So I will come back later with my final thoughts and feelings on Sparkling Cyanide. I have now finished Sparkling Cyanide. It is currently Tuesday. I finished it last night, but I finished it far too late to record anything. So I'm giving my final thoughts and feelings now. I really enjoyed the final part of this book. It is a really long time since I've read it. I didn't remember who done it. And I think that that's one of my favourite things. That's what I love about an Agatha Christie, is that even when I've read them before, I can forget who did it, and it's not overly obvious who it was. And I really liked the way that this book introduced all of these motives before the actual event, because then I had those sort of thoughts going around in my head of, well, you look dodgy and you look dodgy, and it just sort of made me try to do my own amateur sleuthing. I did not see it coming, and I really liked the ending. I have thoroughly enjoyed my bank holiday weekend of reading. I did not so much enjoy my first day back at work, but the books were good. I managed to get through 3 books this bank holiday weekend, and I really enjoyed them all. I had 2 4 stars and a 5+ star. So that is pretty much the mark of an excellent weekend. These are also the only books that I have finished this month so far. So at least I know I've got something finished for my wrap up. Even if I don't manage to read anything else, which I kind of hope I do manage to read something else, there also seemed to have been an unofficial theme to my bank holiday reading of murder and betrayal and people not being quite who they appeared to be. And I don't know what that says about me, but that's something that I enjoy in a book. But that's me. That's my bank holiday weekend reading vlog over, and I read 3 books. They were excellent. Good times had. I have nothing else to say. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!